Hey, movie fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Uncharted Media Podcast. This is episode 167, where we just talk about all the times the Motion Picture Association has been wrong, because they're incredibly subjective. And no, this is not at all tied to The Batman coming out, which easily could have passed for a rated R movie, but it's a fun tie nonetheless. So this week, we're talking about movies that have the wrong rating, things that are G that should have been PG, R but should have been PG-13, and vice versa. I think this is an interesting discussion because, I don't know, there's quite a bit that I'm just like, really? How did that get the rating that it does, and that doesn't have the rating? But, okay, you know, biases and whatever. But, Josh, how you doing today?
I'm chilling, my dude. I got my coffee. It's my day off. We are vibing today, my dude.
Well, have you been watching anything good?
No. We watched Half-Blood Prince with my mom's watch through of Harry Potter. Great movie. Still, I think one of the funniest in the series. Oddly enough.
And just to hint for down the road, we're gonna talk about Half-Blood Prince in our discussion later.
Really?
Why the heck is Half-Blood Prince rated PG?
Okay, yeah, that's right.
It's the only one after 4 that's rated PG, and I don't understand why.
Yeah, that's weird. Okay, we'll totally touch on it, but yeah, like I've been reading a lot more this past week. Well, reading, and I think I
didn't know you could read.
I know, right? Oh, Brick, I didn't know you could read.
I was more going with Crab from Chamber of Secrets.
Crab Goyle, yeah. And dude, that's one of my favorite faces he makes. He's like, I didn't know you could read. Like, Draco, how do you think he's been doing schoolwork this whole time?
Daddy's money.
That's fair. It is. I think it's said in the books. Like Malfoy's like, Lucius is like, if you want to get your grades up there, buddy. Like, yeah, great stuff. I'm halfway through Order of the Phoenix.
Ugh.
And as a good old rant to Nathan yesterday, I am slogging through.
Welcome to every Potter fan's first experience with Order of the Phoenix.
Like, God, dude, it's rough, man. It's definitely rough. And about a third of the way through Mistborn by Brandon Samuelson. It's very interesting. It's a very good book. Brandon Samuelson, if anybody's interested in like creative writing and stuff like that, I found him because he teaches a creative writing specifically for sci-fi and fantasy class at BYU. And early on the spring semester of 2020, obviously we know what happened, but spoiler alert, early that spring he filmed the whole class and put it on YouTube for free. So that's cool. So I've been doing some of his classes, and then because of that I was like, well, you know what, I should read some of this guy's work if I'm gonna like legitimately take him seriously. Gosh darn, is he good. But yeah, what are you watching?
Some movie called The Batman with Robert Pattinson.
That's right.
Full reviews on the channel. It's really good. I just don't know if I'm diving into the deep end like everyone else is, of just like, oh, it's perfect, it's a masterpiece. I'm like, it's really good, but tell me that the second half, and most notably the last third, isn't nearly as up to par as the first half. Like, when Josh eventually sees it, he'll understand, holy crap, the first 15 minutes of this are some of the best Batman ever. It's so good. But there are certain subplots that are important to the overall story that I'm just like, I'm not as connected, or I don't care about this as much. And Riddler kind of takes a back seat in those moments. But overall, it's excellent. I'm really looking forward to the direction that Matt Reeves will be taking these Bat movies, and we'll talk about them here. Also, it destroyed the box office this past weekend, which, HBO, that's what happens when you put your movies in theaters only. they make money.
No
Shocker.
way.
I also watched Nobody with Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah.
There's some really good stunt work in it. As a whole, it does feel like a John Wick knockoff with an old guy mixed with a little bit of Equalizer, but it's still really fun. There's some good choreography. All I have to say is Christopher Lloyd. He's amazing in this movie. He plays Bob Odenkirk's dad, and he's just the best. That's Josh and I like to watch the Corridor crew, like the visual effects artists, and they do stuntmen react. There's a couple stunts in this that I want them to react to, because there's a couple that I'm watching going, you can't fake that. There's some of the goons are in a hospital bed recovering from getting attacked, and their boss legitimately throws a chair at one of them, and I don't know how you would fake that stunt, because it's a wide shot. They don't cut or anything. I'm like, oh, is that like a dummy chair? That's gotta be something, or else pay your stuntman more for that, because that was a really good stunt. As a whole, it's pretty good. Not to the level of John Wick, but it has good world building like John Wick. And lastly, not a new movie. I've seen it before many times, but I hadn't seen it in many years. For some reason, when I was home late, I wanted to watch George the Jungle. I haven't watched George the Jungle in a really long time. CG does not hold up. Like Shep, the elephant, looks so bad, but the humor really holds up. Like, I liked it more now as an adult than I did as a kid. There's a great moment where Lyle, who so good, Thomas Hayden Church is amazing, just takes a header and some elephant poop, and the Swahili like tour guides or expedition guides or whatever look dead at the camera. Falling in poop, classic example of physical comedy. Now we throw our heads back and laugh. Like, they look directly at the camera and everything. Or there's some great fourth wall breaking jokes. Like, they've got the big old elephant that acts as a dog, and one scene shows him with a gigantic milk bone, and the narrator's like, no, that's way too much. Come on now. We can't take that seriously. And then they immediately just smash cut and there's no bone anymore. That's better. Like, it's so good. Like, the fourth wall breaks are so funny. But the one that is just so random that I just died laughing of what is the main girl, Ursula, is thinking about getting married to Tarzan, same character, George of the Jungle, and George is stuck in her apartment just juggling, and her mom keeps calling her on the answering machine. Pick up, answer the phone, Ursula. George picks it up, and then immediately hangs up, and I'm like, why does that work? Brendan Fraser is so good as George of the Jungle, and it was 2 years before The Mummy. I don't know why, but like everyone's always talks about Brendan Fraser and The Mummy. It's like, that's his, wow. No, Miss George of the Jungle. And it got me thinking, why does Disney not do anything with George of the Jungle? I'd be so down with a new incarnation of that, and while I'm watching it, I'll always like Brendan Fraser more, but swap Brendan Fraser with like a Channing Tatum, someone that's got that good looks but also has impeccable comedic timing and also some good physical comedy. I kind of want a George of the Jungle with Channing Tatum now.
Well, yeah, why not? I mean, I don't say anything against it. Yeah, I might. That's
go back and watch it. It's so funny.
I have such fond memories. There's a time where what was it? I'd go over to my cousin's house, and like we'd like that was always one of two movies we'd watch. Is always George of the Jungle or Mighty Joe Young, and good stuff. Like, just okay. Also, good memories.
I love when they're self-aware, because one of the safari guides or whatever falls off a really high bridge, basically to his death, and the narrator just goes, "Don't worry, no one dies in a Disney movie. They just get really big boo-boos." And they immediately cut to the guy just around the fire with a whole bunch of Band-Aids, just looking at Lyle. You suck. So good.
Oh man, George of the Jungle's up there, man. I think it's got one of the most like memorable like main soundtracks.
It's so good. Oh, they go so hard on the score in this for some reason. Like, they don't need to go that hard, but they do.
This is just a Disney movie about Tarzan knockoff. We don't need to go hard.
It's a piano, flaming piano meme.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's get into some news because there's a lot of interesting stuff that could have ramifications down the road. But first of all, we got to talk about the success of the Batman and its subsequent spin-offs, as it seems like one of the spin-offs has kind of shifted direction to a new story avenue, I guess we'll call it, or a new location, so to speak, and that is the supposed GCPD spin-off show for the Batman that Matt Reeves has been working on. He said it's kind of has shifted away from that to becoming an show about Arkham Asylum. I'm going, oh, there's a lot of interesting possibilities here. Is it still going to be a GCPD show, but is it going to be GCPD with an emphasis on Asylum? Are we getting away from the GCPD part of it in general? This is very interesting to me. There's a lot of interesting routes. My mind immediately goes to like, okay, is this how we're going to introduce the Rogues Gallery of like, it's the GCPD tracking down and arresting some of the, no offense, but lower level people in Matt Reeves' universe? Like, I know we're getting Firefly and Batgirl, but like Firefly or Clock King or Victor Zsasz would be perfect for this show that could get thrown into Arkham Asylum. However, if I'm Matt Reeves, I would do something different, like really different. Throw out the GCPD concept. If we're doing something with Arkham Asylum, have it be about the origins of the Arkham Asylum itself, with Amadeus Arkham, how he went insane. And I'm basing this solely off of the Arkham Asylum video game, but have it don't be tied down to the timeline constraints of your current movies. I'm sure that's what they want to do to expand the universe more, but I think it'd be more interesting if you expand the universe from filling out the back, so to speak, and it's not going to run into that era of, well, are we going to see Bruce Wayne's parents get shot again? I'm like, let's not, because thank God that doesn't happen in the Batman. Spoiler alert, I guess. You don't see Batman's parents die. But this would be set way in the past. I think the founding of Arkham Asylum, with maybe have it be like kind of the Shining-esque of Amadeus Arkham founds Arkham Asylum for good purposes of like, we are going to rehabilitate. And then he slowly starts losing his mind, and basically it goes from an actual credible rehabilitation center to the definition of the nut house. I think that could be interesting, but I would not be surprised at all if this show is used to introduce other Batman villains that they might not have film plans for, but they want to flesh out the universe more, because the Batman has a lot of villains, but they're used well for the larger narrative of their pieces on a chessboard, so to speak, and I would like to see that happen more. I do kind of get tired of comic book movies going, all right, here's your main villain. He's the only villainous character in this. Like, Batman's got a lot of characters. Let's use some other ones to slot in somewhere. So maybe that's what we're going on here. I still kind of want to keep some of the GCPD aspect, though, because I think that sounded interesting. There's just a lot of interesting avenues to go with this, and I don't really know what he means by this, but it could also be early enough in the development stage that they don't really know what this is shaping up to be just yet.
Yeah.
Arkham Asylum show or GCPD show? If you had a choice of the two, which would you rather see?
Well, we kind of already have a GCPD show, and that's Gotham.
It was for the first 2 seasons, and then it's just villains galore.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it'd be better to focus on Arkham Asylum, especially like if this is going to be like extra content, not necessarily directly driving what happens in the films. Then yeah, this just needs to be extra content. Like, hey, yeah, like so kind of like how my experience of the books is, right, of the Harry Potter books is right now. Like, hey, this is the movies. If you want a little bit more information, go read the books. Like, yeah, I'm down. Absolutely. I do think the easy route is to kind of do a anthology series of sorts with the people in Arkham. What you could do would be, and I'm trying to come up with something that's a little different than yours, but isn't exactly an anthology. So let's try to combine these concepts of the GCPD and including an Arkham Asylum. Maybe have them. Let's just say Gordon, for the sake of it, has to is trying to solve a specific crime, and there's happens to be a lot of people involved, and so he has to interview lots of people that happen to be in Arkham Asylum. That way, we can meet people while we're still heading towards a specific goal. Um, Maybe they do Zaz for their first season, and so in order to understand more about Zaz, that he has to go to Arkham to interview certain accomplices and people that might have known him and stuff like that. That's just to catch him. Obviously, this is me saying this without having seen the movie at all, so I don't know how. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Arkham
yeah.
does not really factor into the movie. It's there at the end, obviously, to set up future things, but yeah, Arkham doesn't really play a factor in it. But I would like to spend more time there and see kind of what this version of Arkham is like, because we've seen like the Nolan Arkham, we've seen the Burton Arkham, and seen how they're different. I'd like to spend more time with the Matt Reeves one to kind of see what that one would be like. But I know there's a very famous Batman comic. I think it's just called Batman, maybe Asylum, I think,
Probably.
or something like that. I think it's Batman trapped in. It's what the game was heavily inspired by. Basically Batman trapped inside Arkham Asylum. Swap out Batman for a couple of GCPD, basically. I think that could be really fun. Make it like a horror show of these characters trapped in a location, like Resident Evil, except good, basically. Of just have this squad that slowly starts getting picked off.
It's just the raid, but with white guys.
I would not mind a GCPD with the raid.
Yeah, we're opposite, where they're stuck at the top of an apartment complex and they have to fight their way out. I kind of like that, actually. That season maybe only have a select few villains, because you don't want to overcrowd stuff. It'll be interesting to see if, and I don't think that they've confirmed this yet or not, that that this is like taking place in a different universe than James Gunn's Suicide Squad movies.
Yeah,
okay.
They've confirmed that.
Okay, cool.
There's nothing in the movie that says that, but they've confirmed it.
Okay, which is fine. I'm totally down with that. Like, the only thing I was gonna say was like it'd be interesting to have like Calendar Man, at least that version of Calendar Man, show up, and like he's like this like a funny dude, and he's terrifying. But
I still want like the Arkham City Calendar Man of like a Hannibal Lecter-esque that I think could be really, really fun. But yeah, I just kind of want these projects to go in development, because we got the Penguin. I'm like, so when are y'all starting this? Like, the Batman's great, and I want to spend more time in that world. Can we just get some forward progress on that, some forward momentum, please? But yeah, I think it's only a matter of time. Now, this one we talked about recently, that the Marvel Netflix stuff was coming to Disney Plus in Canada. Well, and now it's coming stateside, as parental controls and the Marvel Netflix stuff is coming to Disney Plus with like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and everything else. I do find it funny, though, that when Disney announced it, they're just like, oh, these shows coming to Disney Plus. They never mentioned Iron Fist. I'm going, so you do listen to people, because I don't think anybody's excited about Iron Fist coming to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
To me, this is a much bigger deal than just the Marvel Netflix character showing up on Disney Plus. This is a much bigger thing. It's like when Disney bought Fox. Everyone was like, cool, the X-Men can join the MCU. I'm like, that's an added bonus, but that's not the real reason it's happening. It's the exact same thing here. It's an added bonus that we're getting the Marvel Netflix stuff on Disney Plus, but it's not the real reason. It's Disney Plus has stagnated in their numbers. Like, they boomed right out of the gate and got a lot of subscribers. It's tailed off, and it has not looked good on stock, which is why they've also talked about they're going to introduce an ad-supported version of Disney Plus, so you can pay a cheaper version with no ads. I'm going, Disney Plus is already $8 a month. How are you going to get cheaper than that? You're going to have like a $5 one with ads? Because $8 is honestly still really not that much for how much content
Yeah.
Disney Plus has. Granted, they could do more new content. But the bigger factor here is Disney Plus is finally going to start putting adult content on Disney Plus, which is why they're putting the parental controls in, which this comes back to they're getting to a point where they're stagnating on subscriber numbers, so they need to have everything migrate to one location. I get what Disney's was thinking of. We're going to be a family-friendly platform that's safe for the kids. I get that, but if you want to stay competitive with the other streaming services, whether it be HBO Max, Peacock, Netflix, those are the only real competition right now for them, then you need to have stuff that's more than just for the family and for kids and teenagers. You need strictly adult content. Like HBO Max has the inverse problem. They've got a lot of adult-oriented content, but they still at least have some kids stuff. Netflix has some kid stuff and some family stuff. They have the whole package, and I think you've got to broaden your reach as much as humanly possible if you're Disney Plus. And this is where we bring it back around. This is why they bought Fox. Fox stuff is coming to Disney Plus because, again, this part is just me speculating, but there have been reports for a while now that Comcast and Universal are going to pull their stake out of Hulu and invest their content back into Peacock, which is probably the right move, which would make Disney the sole purveyor of Hulu. And if that happens, Hulu's done. I'd move everything Hulu to Disney Plus, make it a mega app, because I've said before, we've got a mega app coming with the Discovery Warner merger and whatever app that ends up happening. So Disney will probably, in response, merge Hulu and Disney Plus, which honestly gets me excited, because while Hulu has some good content, I would not miss Hulu if its content went somewhere else. I've never liked Hulu's interface. I've never liked that they're just like, y'all content with HD? I'm going, but why? Because if I know something's going to Disney Plus, that's a newer project, I know what I'm getting. I will get 4K. I will get the best audio platform that it's currently available on, whether it's Surround or Atmos or whatever else. Disney Plus puts that best foot forward when it comes to the audio and visual department. Like West Side Story just came out on both HBO Max and Disney Plus, which is super bizarre. I'll absolutely be watching on Disney Plus because Disney Plus has the premium formats of the 4K, Dolby Atmos, whatever else, and HBO Max is going, y'all like HD that's kind of blurry? That might only be 720, not even 1080. But if it moves to Hulu, we can get things like Alien and Predator in 4K, maybe Terminator in 4K, all those Fox properties move over to Disney Plus with much better formats. Also, I feel like the Fox stuff hasn't even made it to Hulu yet, at least in bulk. Like, Hulu's selection is so scattered and random.
Yeah,
like
it's so weird. Like, because there's some stuff that's on, and then stuff that you'd expect to be on there is not. I mean, I say that knowing that HBO Max has 2 of the 3 Bourne movies, and then it has Legacy and be like, and literally has it as like the Bourne collection, but it's 2 out of 3 plus that one that Jeremy Renner did. So
which
that's a little weird.
Credit to Paramount Plus. This is why they said in 2024 all our Paramount movies will be here, because they planned it far enough out that they're going to let all those contracts expire, that we don't have something like this. Do you see a future for Hulu, or do you see everything coming to Disney Plus? And if so, do you think that's a smart idea to have adult content on Disney Plus?
I mean, yeah, like you said, they're going to have to do something here to keep adults coming and being used outside of, like, I don't know, the Marvel shows and the Star Wars shows. I've had no reason really to get on Disney. So it's definitely going to help to have just more adult content. It's definitely interesting that, to me, I think it's more interesting that this is a Netflix produced show.
Yeah.
That's being put on Disney. So to me, there's no way that Netflix is not getting like some cash out of this, and I wouldn't be surprised if they made it beneficial for them. What's going to be hilarious is, excuse me, is if they keep Iron Fist up on Netflix and it's just like by
It's the
itself.
only show. It's the one that no one wanted. It's like how
Oh,
all those
dude.
like lower tier Disney movies, like Old Dogs or
Hmm.
Snow Dogs, are always on other streaming services because Disney's going, yeah, we're in no rush to get those back. You can keep that. Like,
Yeah.
y'all can keep your Home on the Range for a little bit. We'll let you have that one. We don't need that one back. Like, Netflix is going, yo, we still have Iron Fist. And you're proud of that. Now,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
interesting question will be that I've already seen people raise, and it is one to consider, is on Disney Plus in the Marvel tab, which I love the tab that they've got. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They've got subcategories within that tab. They've got like MCU, Phase 1, Phase 2, whatever else. But then it has Marvel Legacy, which is where the old Fantastic Four stuff, the old X-Men stuff, the stuff that they got from Fox, the stuff that's not currently connected to the MCU. We'll see about that in a few months. But not currently connected to the MCU. Will these shows go under that Marvel Legacy banner? Or will it go under the proper Marvel Cinematic banner? There's a 90% chance that it goes under Marvel Legacy. But with Charlie Cox's Daredevil being in Spider-Man No Way Home and Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin being in Hawkeye, there's a chance that it's been in the MCU. But at the same time, they're probably variants. I know that people will be like, yeah, it's the same version. I'm like, is it though? Because
See,
Kingpin kind of got taken out like a fool in Hawkeye.
yeah. Like it becomes more obvious the more you rewatch Daredevil that they have to be variants, especially with Kingpin, because and I rewatched it with my dad recently, um, and he was like, "Yeah, like if this was the version, could you imagine if that was the version that we got?" Bro was like straight up taking people's heads and shoving it through walls. Like that's not the Kingpin we got. Uh, and I think that's why to me at least, I was very like, man, this is stupid. Like he's here, but he's not here. Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I have seen, and I don't know about you, I like to, for some stupid reason, look at Facebook comments and stuff like that whenever there's like this kind of article posted from reputable sources, just to kind of see what people are saying and what kind of the general populace is kind of thinking. And but a lot of people are excited, but there have been quite a few people that are like, but this is a family app. Why are these shows? How are these shows going to be
That's what
survive
parental
on
controls are
this app?
for.
I mean, there's that, but also like, so you're letting your children watch Mandalorian? Like, why? Like, that's you can't do that.
It's no
I
different
don't
than
know.
if you just set your kid in front of a TV with the remote in front of them at watching Disney Channel saying, it's on Disney Channel, that means it's okay. Like, the kid's still going to reach for the
This,
remote. You have
yeah,
controls at your disposal that let them not watch the stuff. That's what parental controls are for. You could set it to whatever. I think this is something they should have done a while ago.
yeah, absolutely.
Just think it's kind of bizarre that you can get, like, depending on what Fox stuff they get, be like, all right, on this app you've got The Lion King, The Mandalorian, Avengers, Wolf of Wall Street. Like, just make sure you have your parental
It's
controls
such
on, parents.
it's such a weird app now. Like,
I don't know
and
if
I'm
that's a
okay with
Fox
it.
movie, but imagine.
Like,
Gee,
yeah, yeah. Like all the weird stuff that happens in the X-Men movies, we're okay with that. But once you bring I mean, and to be fair, these shows are incredibly violent. So yes, please have your parental controls on.
yes,
Oh my gosh.
the door with Kingpin.
Yes. Oh, the prison sequence with Punisher in
Hmm.
Daredevil season 2, like, oh god.
So, why must you continue to do stupid things, AMC? Like, every time I think you're gonna do something smart, you just go in the opposite direction. And this is another example of just what are you thinking? And that is that AMC was reportedly testing out raising ticket prices for The Batman, not for other movies, just for The Batman, for prime showings for its opening weekend. And they're citing this as testing a new pricing system of like in more in-demand movies for opening weekend will be charged more than other ones. Here's where I'm conflicted. If it meant lower ticket prices for other movies, maybe not a bad idea. If you pay $1 or $2 more for prime, like opening weekend, The Batman, but you take $1 or $2 off of, what was the other Colin Farrell movie that came out this past weekend? He had one. Yeah, but like, or like Licorice Pizza that just came out, or Belfast.
Yeah.
If people want to go see that in theaters, if those tickets were cheaper in response of like, okay, I'm not opposed to the idea of tickets being cheaper depending on when you go. Like, okay, $12 or $15 for a Friday night, prime screens, everything else, but $7 or $8 for a 2 p.m. Wednesday showing of Licorice Pizza type of thing. But
Yeah.
AMC is not doing that. They're just looking for an excuse to raise ticket prices here, and they just did it recently. AMC, why do you keep shooting yourself in the foot? You're the one kid in the back of the class that's just causing everybody else so much grievance right now. Like, Regal has recovered, Cinemark's doing okay. It's just AMC that's going, hey, we done goofed a while ago. If we keep messing with it, then we'll eventually fix it, right? We're going, just stop touching it. Just stop. You keep touching it and you're making it worse. Like,
AMC, you want to make more money? Put merch stores in your theaters.
not even so much that. Just stop making stupid choices.
I mean, there's that, yeah. But like, and I saw somebody who was toting this as a good idea, and I'm kind of on your side with this. But like the perspective they came from was, hey, we could even charge more for specific seats. Treat this like an actual, like a sporting event, not just a movie thing. And I was like, no. I like, unless you're gonna do like actual assigned seating and actually pay your employees a reasonable amount and actually have actual ushers.
Do your theaters near you not have assigned seats?
So my point with that is not all of them do.
Really?
Yeah. The AMCs near me are not assigned seatings.
Really? Every theater near me is assigned seating, because I was going to bring that up of one of the few good things that they've learned from sporting events is assigned seatings. I don't have to wait or get to the theater 2 hours before the movie starts, sit outside the theater with my parents, sitting on the floor, hoping that we get good seats, because that was definitely my thing growing up. I was wanting to get good seats, so we had to, if we had a movie at 7, we'd have to be there at like 5:30 or whatever else, just to make sure if it was like opening night. I like the reserved seats ahead of time. I don't like the idea of, middle seats, extra 50 cents. I'm like, just
like, it doesn't make sense to me, because like this isn't a theater, this isn't like a sporting event. It just like it's
all the seats are close enough together that you're gonna get the same experience.
Yeah,
it's not courtside versus nosebleeds.
Yeah, they're trying to nickel and dime you, and I don't appreciate that. I agree with you. Like, I'd be more down with them raising prices for like the premiere movies, like the mainstream ones, if it meant I got to see, I don't know, French Dispatch for $5 on a Saturday. Like, that's fine. I'm down with that. But like, that we both, like you said, we both know that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is they're going to keep these movies like Licorice Pizza, like French Dispatch, or crap, even like something like The Green Knight, like some of these like movies that aren't going to be quote unquote as popular. First of all, it's very odd to kind of like go ahead and dictate what movies are going to be bigger than others.
See, that's where I kind of step back my own thought of like who are the theaters to decide, all right, this is popular, this is not. But also, like, it kind of makes it really hard to fairly assess anything box office going forward then of, like, well, this had the biggest box office opening of all time. Like, well, it had the ticket prices compared to this other movie that didn't have that extra benefit. I'm happy it's just AMC doing this stupid stuff, because it almost feels like every single time it's that Harry Potter meme of why is whenever something bad happens, it's always you, AMC. Like, they're the ones that just started this whole war with streaming and theaters because they did some stupid stuff. You don't hear anything about Regal or Cinemark or Miller's Ale House. No. Not Miller's Ale House. That's a restaurant.
I mean, I was like, that's a restaurant.
Ooh, Miller's Ale House showed movies. Great.
Yeah.
What's it? What am I thinking of? The Texas.
Alamo Draft House.
Yeah, that one. Why am I? Miller's Ale House, Alamo Draft House.
Ale House.
Miller's Roadhouse. I don't know where.
Roadhouse.
But yeah. This just raises more issues. This overcomplicates a process that doesn't really need it. Like, AMC, you've got a good thing with A-List, where you've got your $25 a month, you see basically unlimited movies. Just freaking advertise that more than when you're actually sitting down in the theater. I've never understood why theaters, whether it's Regal, Cinemark, AMC, they advertise themselves when you're already in the theater. They're just like, oh, your movie's about to start. Did you see the Coke commercial right before the movie? I'm like, dude, if I'm getting a drink, I already have it. Or they'll be like, isn't it great to see a movie at AMC? Yes, that's why I'm sitting in an AMC theater. Like, I think movie theaters just need to advertise in places besides theaters. Why do they overcomplicate it? When was the last time you saw a TV commercial, not for a specific movie, but for a theater, be like, hey guys, this is how we've improved as a theater. The magic of theaters are still a thing. Or there's so many people that I don't think understand or realize that there are things like AMC A-List or Regal Crown Club where you can have a subscription and see as many movies as you want because they don't properly advertise it. Just advertise it, and you make up some of the lost revenue that you've been missing out on. You don't have to overcomplicate it with stupid raised ticket prices. Like,
yeah, like you said, it just like the more and more you dive, much like the Harry Potter world, the more you dive into it, the weirder and weirder stuff gets. Like, it's just, there's a lot of stuff that is going to be overcomplicated for literally no reason at all, other than let's hey man, now that we thankfully have people coming back to our theaters, let's nickel and dime them.
Now let's get to some positive stuff though, because this has gone from like oh to oh yes to me really quickly. So it feels like a new Alien movie has been in kind of development hell forever. I feel like there was, or maybe I was thinking of the TV show that we're getting that. There's that. I believe it's an Alien TV show that I'm blanking on the guy's name that they're working, that Disney signed him. But let's see, Alien TV series. Nope, that's gonna give me Resident Alien with Alan Tudyk. That's not what I'm looking for. I'll look it up another time.
That sounds right. That sounds right.
But we have a new development that just makes me go, oh, now I'll care about Alien, because I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Alien fan. I think they're fine. I like Predator a little more. However, something I like more than Alien is Fede Alvarez. And Fede Alvarez will be writing and directing a new Alien movie. For those that don't know, Fede Alvarez is the man behind Don't Breathe and the Evil Dead remake. Two, I think, of some of the best, and I mean this in the best possible way, best and non-rewatchable horror movies of recent memory. Like, they're fantastic. So good that I don't want to rewatch them. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, because I saw what was in the basement of Don't Breathe, and I don't need to see it again. Because, and also, screw you, Neeson from Evil Dead. Also, Evil Dead's still one of the best remakes of all time. So when I see Fede Alvarez's name attached to anything when he's writing and directing, mind you, because his name has been attached as a producer on certain things. Don't Breathe 2, Texas Chainsaw, Netflix, and they've been trash. So I don't know if I'd trust his name as a producer on things, but writing and directing, oh yes. Like, considering this is a franchise that I don't really care about, you slap Fede Alvarez's name on it, I'm immediately interested in it, because, you know, with Fede, it's going to be scary, but also if Evil Dead's anything to go by, this is going to be a very R-rated, violent Alien, which is something that the franchise has kind of needed for a little bit. I don't want to say they've gotten soft, but they kind of have gotten a little tame with Alien.
Well, it's if the Prometheus saga is anything to go by, it's they've gotten pretty tame and like, oh, hey, look, this is our nice, beautiful sci-fi film. Hi, like, you know, come see us.
It was Noah Hawley that was supposedly doing an Alien series.
That name sounds familiar, but I don't know why. But just like the Alien series is a joke at this particular point. Because, like, you know, have you gone to the Prometheus school of running away from things? Like that, like, absolutely. Like,
we do not give Cinema Sins any credit here.
But that joke is fantastic. I can't. Like, I agree. Cinema Sins is terrible, and they shouldn't be. I don't understand how they're still. Okay, that's wrong. I understand
because idiots born every minute.
Yes, But with that being said, I'm excited. Yeah, absolutely. Fede Alvarez is involved. Yeah, let's go, buddy. Give me people actually being like destroyed. Do you think we'll actually see somebody get eaten this time? Like actually, like not just like, because we get the tongue mouth going through heads a lot, but like it's never quote unquote shown. It's always like a you get just from like you. Like just from the mouth. Oh, okay, cool. Or you get like a silhouette. Like to my knowledge, we haven't gotten like a straight on like you get to see everything. And Alvarez seems like the kind of guy to show that. It's been a long time since Alien, and the series has definitely gone way more sci-fi than horror. And I'd be excited to see somebody like Fede Alvarez take the series back to its horror roots. So I think the big question here is, do we stay in space? Or do we bring it back?
Yes, because the Noah Hawley one is supposed to be set on Earth. And it's pretty cool.
Okay.
So what gets me also excited is Fede himself went to Ridley Scott, who is still producing these movies. He went to Ridley Scott himself. He's just like, dude, please let me do an Alien movie. Here's my story. I've wanted to do it forever. Here's what I got. And Ridley Scott told him no. And so apparently he's been sitting on it for a while. And Ridley Scott was just like, you know what? I'll give that kid the movie. Why not? So he called him up and was just like, you still want to do it? And Fede's like, whatever I'm doing, I'll drop it right now and do it. Yes. Here's my long-term booking. I think this might be what they're thinking of, either the show or this movie, because Disney loves their cinematic universes and making things franchises. I would not be surprised at all if Disney and 20th Century Studios are considering redoing an Alien versus Predator attempt and properly build it up, because if you properly build that up and don't make a PG-13, as much as I like the first Alien versus Predator, don't make it PG-13, that could make you a lot of money. It'll never happen, but imagine Alien versus Predator versus Terminator, like
no.
Or yeah, that's about all only real crossover. You can't do Alien versus Predator versus Rambo. That wouldn't work.
No,
I feel like that's been a comic though.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But I've thought for a little bit that Alien versus Predator is coming again. This time it's different. It's Predator versus Alien. That's completely different. This time we're going to shoot it so you can actually see the action. What a novel concept.
that's allowed? You can do that?
Zack
Yeah,
Snyder's the
I'd,
cinematographer.
so if they do that, if they're gonna quote unquote properly build this, um, how many movies you thinking? Like, are we
As many
thinking
as they can
3?
make.
I mean, yeah, but I guess like in
It's
order to like
always
quote
the
unquote
third one
properly
that they
build
run
it.
into issues with. They're just like, all right, we got the first two. Oh, I think looking back with movies, you realize how hard it is to stick the landing with the third movie. Like
Hmm.
Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 3 never even happened. Spider-Man 3 bad. Credit to No Way Home that it delivered, but look at the first Alien. First two are great, even if they're wildly different. Aliens is when it started going off the rails. And some people,
Hmm.
we've got a friend of ours that I still think he believes Alien 3 is the worst of all of them. I'm going, but 4
But
exists.
4 exists.
And Alien
Yeah.
vs. Predator Requiem exists.
And Prometheus is not Prometheus?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Prometheus.
It's not as bad as I think people make it out to be. And
I
what's
don't care for Prometheus, though.
it's not, I don't care for it, but not because it's a bad movie. I think it's just not, it's a sci-fi, like, hey, let's take this horror series and turn it into Blade Runner kind of thing. Um, it's not my thing. I think, back to like my question, I think it's 3 is your solid. Well, you know what? I'm taking it. I might take that back. Do like two. How fun would it be to do like a couple Predator movies of them like hunting stuff, and then they go to Earth or they. No, let's not even have them hunt them on Earth. Let's have them hunt in them. Have them hunt in a space station or something. Like, I just like a neutral ground site
Or they go to
where.
the Xenomorph's home planet.
Ooh, but they
Go
don't
to the
have.
buffet.
They don't have a home planet name.
What if they made one? Just not hard. You own the franchise. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, let's just like Ridley Scott is known for retconning things, so yeah, why not? Especially in this series.
Well, here's where I'm going to lose a lot of people, but it needs to be said. If you want the Alien franchise to succeed, Ridley Scott has to be involved as little as possible.
Yeah,
Just going to say it now, because he's doesn't have the magic touch anymore. Let's just put it that way. He's very, very spotty. Love The Martian. We all remember, well, none of us remember The Counselor.
yeah, he's really having his last duel with creativity.
Or it's with millennials and their stupid phones.
Yeah, those millennials, man, shake your finger.
That's why The Last Duel didn't do well. It has nothing to do with the lackluster marketing campaign and being outdated biopic, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever. You know,
and it's weird store structure.
Yeah, whatever.
So, let's talk about movies that don't need to happen but are happening either way, and also, how are they happening? With the I Am Legend sequel that's bringing back Will Smith. So, the people that made this movie, did they see the original to know what happens to Will Smith? Unless they're going to go back and retcon and say, the alternate ending that we should have used for this movie, because that's a soapbox that I'm absolutely going to stand on here in a bit here, that other ending is the real ending here. Why is this a thing? Why are we getting a I Am Legend sequel? Just because y'all like Will Smith again after King Richard doesn't mean we just greenlight everything. The Hancock sequel is right there in front of you, and you go with this instead, the movie that he's clearly dead for. The only thing that gets me at least somewhat intrigued by this is that it'll have both Will Smith and Michael B. Jordan being in a movie together for the first time. That is a phenomenal pairing that I would love to see in a movie together. I Am Legend 2 is not that sequel. Is not that movie that I want to see them paired together. I Am Legendary? I was going to make fun of it, but that actually sounds kind of dope.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
I Am Legends? Legends Am I?
I'm telling you right now, this show is called, these movies are called I Am Legend because that's where they belong in the past.
We are Legend.
Stop. No.
We are Groot.
I don't like, And I think for me, I don't really like I Am Legend as a
Same.
movie either.
I hate it.
Like it's not. I won't say I hate it.
I do.
But
It's
the
boring and it has a
only
terrible
time
ending that I'll get to.
if the only time I feel anything in your movie is when you kill a dog on screen, like come on. Like I'm supposed to like I
Somebody
just
joked that they'll bring the dog back.
What's funny is, technically speaking, if this pairing is to be believed, Michael B. Jordan is really just replacing the dog. Um,
There's a really easy joke to be had there, but we're gonna take the high road on that one.
Yep.
I like both
dude.
of these actors. I just don't get why this is the project. A movie I didn't think I Am Legend like lit up the box office or anything, although it's super weird that it's like had this weird resurgence that people discovered in I Am Legend. In the background there's a Batman and Superman poster that's got like the Bat logo in the Superman logo in the Bat logo, and then Batman versus Superman happened like a decade later. The ending complicates things because, spoiler alert for a crappy movie from over a decade and a half ago, Will Smith dies. However, if they adopt the ending that they should have done all along, in which case Will Smith survives. Here's why I get so fired up about the I Am Legend finale. In the theatrical cut, he blows himself up, gives the lady and her kid the cure so humanity can rid itself of these zombie-like creatures and get back to the world that they knew. Pretty safe action story. In the alternate cut, the creatures are not monsters. The actual monster is Will Smith's character. Those creatures were never trying to hurt or kill him. They are just the next stage of human evolution, and they are the new norm. Will Smith is clinging on to the past, and he has abducted one of them, so they're just trying to get their person back. Will Smith realizes that he's the bad guy the whole time and gives back the creature going, oh, I just have to accept that this is the new norm, that these are the new people of the world, and I'm the monster that they hide from, not the other way around. That's so much more profound. That's a much better introspective ending going, holy crap, that's really deep and interesting, as opposed to, I'm gonna blow myself up like Randy Quaid in Independence Day, another movie that I was in. Like, I don't get it. My worry is he's gonna stay dead and he'll show up in videos. Like, I left video diaries from when I was alive, and Michael B. Jordan's gonna find his lab or something like that.
But like, even with that ending, like, it doesn't make sense for Will Smith to be around. Like, neither ending make it possible for him to be around or make sense because if he has that realization, why would he then, I don't know, decide to still just, like, not saying he'd take his life, but like, why would you still be the, like, human then, or whatever that our version of human, I don't know. It's just so complicated. All that to be said, a sequel doesn't make sense. Hancock 2 would be much more interesting.
Especially in this age of superhero movies.
Yeah, just would be so much more interesting. Yeah, I don't know, man. I will say, like, the guys in the group chat that I'm a part of, we're making fun of this very hard. So
understandably so. It's a stupid idea, and they should be ashamed of their stupidity.
Yes, they should.
As per usual, this episode is sponsored by TeePublic, where you can get all your Uncharted Media merch needs, whether it's t-shirt, mugs, notebooks, stickers, hoodies for the summer months, wherever you want with Uncharted Media designs on them, that's where you can go. Check it out. And as always, thanks for checking out the stuff. And our discussion this week is on something that I hate just as much as Bob Chapek, and that's saying something. And that's the Motion Picture Association. It used to be of America. I think it's just the Motion Picture Association now. Basically, the people that rate movies and rate them horribly for lack of any other words, they're very subjective. If you ever really look into how movies get the ratings that they do, whether it's PG-13, R, G, it's incredibly subjective. It's very much a case of do as I say, not as I do type of thing of like, well, why is this okay, but the exact same thing happens in this movie and it's not okay, but we're gonna get into it. So these movies are not necessarily bad movies. A lot of these movies I like. Some of these, it's just the classification is wrong. Whether it's a PG-13 movie that should have been R, an R-rated movie that should have been PG-13, or even some G movies, G and PG movies that have no business being G and PG movies. Yeah, I don't like the MPAA, but I'm looking forward to this discussion topic. Josh had an interesting journey with this one. Like, he kind of questioned it when I first pitched it to him. He thought we were going to be talking about like Rotten Tomatoes ratings, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like actual like PG-13 and R stuff. He's just like, all right. And then as soon as he starts looking into it, he's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to stop on this.
Dude. Yes. It was really crazy. Like, I mean, there's a lot of like stuff that we won't bring up in this discussion just because I don't feel like we're qualified necessarily to talk about it. But like just some of the stuff the MPAA does, like as far as like certain things are okay in this context, but not okay in other context. It's so weird. And like we'll get into it, but there's certain things on this list that do not belong on PG or G, and some of that is like the PG-13 rating didn't exist until 1984.
Yeah, so
I mean there is that.
So we did put that caveat.
That'll be tough.
We did put the caveat for this of another rating had to be available at the time. So you're not going to see like Temple of Doom on this list because Temple of Doom basically is the reason PG-13 exists. So any movie that like could have passed for PG-13, but PG-13 wasn't a thing at the time, we're just going to throw it out immediately because with the times it would have been updated.
Yeah.
So there had to be another rating available at the time that would have been better suited for it.
To be fair though, like, oh yeah, and like, so like, let's start off then. We'll just, as an example, let's talk about Poltergeist real quick, because for some reason, Poltergeist is PG. I still don't know why.
I have no idea. I know a lot of people that are traumatized by this movie.
Yeah, like I would go as far as to say, like, I don't think even probably at that time it deserved to be, even if PG-13 was a thing. I think it should have been R completely. I mean, there's a whole scene of a guy staring into a mirror and watching his face melt off. Like it should not. Like, I don't understand why it's PG at all. Yeah, or in another example would be a little bit closer to our line of PG-13 would be Airplane was PG. That scene with a full frontal, like randomly in the middle of nowhere.
It's not full frontal. It's close to it. But see, Airplane, I thought about Airplane, but at the same time, if PG-13 existed at the time, I think it would have been PG-13. Besides that, because there isn't swearing really in Airplane. It's mainly dad jokes. It's just that one part that I agree. If you're watching the TV version, I'm sure it's not even in there. Airplane, I don't know if I would have gone the R rating. That I forgot.
I definitely think it deserved the PG.
One that I forgot to put on my list that is similar to your Poltergeist. Probably because there's been talks that Poltergeist is secretly directed by this guy too, Steven Spielberg. And I'm talking about Jaws is PG.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
I'm not as strong on my convictions on this one as I am about Poltergeist. Like, Poltergeist is... Why is that PG? That's a straight up horror movie. I don't particularly love it as a horror movie, but that's a horror movie. That's actually pretty scary. Jaws, I can kind of see the PG, but there's severed body parts, and it's a darker tone overall. So I think it would have been a little extreme for an R, but I think it's also extreme for a PG. So like if there's a middle ground, starting the catalyst for a PG-13 down the line. I got a couple.
Yeah, because Airplane was 1980, so like 4 years before they put in the PG-13 rating. So like all these are kind of like really close to that line of like a time when they really, really started needing another rating, which that will definitely be, I think, reflected here once we get into it. What did you want to kick off with?
I've got a couple horror movies that
Okay.
usually
Yeah.
horror has an R-rated stigma, and horror fans will like kind of push up their glasses at any PG-13 horror, even though there's been a slew of really good PG-13 horror, like Happy Death Day is PG-13 and proud. I think Hellfest is PG-13. I don't know. I know not everybody loves Hellfest. I enjoy it quite a bit, just because it's a haunt-based movie. However, there's one horror movie that's PG-13 that I still to this day have no idea why. Insidious. Holy crap. How is Insidious PG-13, but The Conjuring is R? Which, it's weird.
Because I think you can do those in tandem.
You swap them. The Conjuring is the one where no one dies, and that's R. But Insidious, there's actual death, and that's PG-13. The only thing that dies in The Conjuring is the dog, which maybe that's what makes it R. I don't know. But either The Conjuring should be PG-13, or Insidious should be R. I don't understand the difference here. Like, Insidious is probably one of the most terrifying PG-13 movies I've ever seen. Like, that's actually scary. And you can have movies be rated R just for the sheer terror of it. I'm pretty sure The Conjuring is R for sheer terror. Whatever that means besides just marketing purposes. But I really do not understand how Insidious, at least the first one, the sequels kind of lose it a little bit and kind of get, I don't want to say too commercial, but it's the horror trend.
Absolutely say that. Like, absolutely say they get commercial horror.
It's a horror sequel. What do you expect? But Insidious, it's just like, poop or get off the pot. Like, come on now.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, and I think that was the catalyst for me, because like you had said that when we first started talking about it, because for those that don't know, Josh is always pretty slow on his research, but I get it done, and that's what matters.
Like the kid that does their homework on like 9:00 Sunday night.
Yes. Oh, that was me. That was me in college anyway. But
you got your homework done in college?
From sophomore year on. But yeah, like it was interesting that like it is like that as I think there's the idea of like a hard PG-13 and a soft R, to the point like we could talk about, and I'll kind of segue this a little bit, about King Kong Skull Island. And the idea that the MPAA is fine with bodies being completely ripped apart as long as they're not human. Because like there's parts in that movie where King Kong literally takes one of the skull walkers or whatever they're called,
rips his spine out,
and tears it completely in half. There's also scenes where whole bodies are eaten by these things. There's that scene where the giant spider puts his leg through someone's mouth. And this thing is a PG-13 movie, obviously just so they could mass market it, and it's from a major studio. Just like how violent a lot of those deaths are, should have been like at least a soft R, I would think. Like it's so weird. It's because it's a big budget movie, and it's from a big studio, and most of the deaths are not necessarily the human. You don't necessarily. It's just like it's such like skirting the law. I wouldn't doubt, and the whole process of like how they start to rate movies is so weird. I wouldn't doubt if the first draft of the script got an R rating, and they're like, "All right, cool. We'll just back off a little bit on the actual stuff that you see, and then we'll get a PG-13." But like that's all that stuff is definitely still there in King Kong Skull Island.
They got a PG-13 because of all the helicopters. If you ever look it up, just Jordan Vogt Roberts, the director, and helicopters. That's this weird like hill that he'd be like, you want to see King Kong fight with helicopters? So I put helicopters in the movie. We're going, was that a problem? Okay.
Who's asking for
Okay,
this?
sure. Honorable mention because I'm not like willing to die for it, but Alien versus Predator, the first one, is rated PG-13 only because the blood in the movie is green. It is an incredibly violent movie, but since they changed the color, again, it's super weird with the MPAA. Just change the color, it's fine. It makes it okay if the blood is neon green as opposed to red, because swap out the green for red. And Alien vs. Predator is absolutely an R-rated movie. It's still more tame than some other Alien and Predator movies, but that's definitely an R-rated movie. So I'm going, I've got another horror one. One of my favorite horror sequels. But even now I'm going, did we really need an R rating for this? Because there's nothing that gives it an R rating except for the god-awful CG mask in that one shot. And I'm talking about Halloween H2O. This is absolutely a PG-13 movie. This is like the lowest body count of a Halloween movie, probably since the original, if not the lowest. I think there's only like 4 people that die in H2O. It's not particularly bloody. The only real violent part, actually, is when the girl's foot gets crushed by the dumbwaiter. And then you see a little bit of blood there, and you see her boyfriend's neck a little open. But even then, it's not like gashing blood. You see it very, very briefly, and then they turn to head away. Even when Michael Myers gets straight up decapitated, there's no blood. It's like the prop mask just gets popped off type of thing. Like, it's not particularly violent. There's no sex. There's no language, I don't think. I think there might... Yeah, there's like 1 or 2 F-bombs. That's about it. But it's very much a PG-13 movie that I think just because it's a Halloween movie got the R-rated. Like, it's... As much as I love H2O, it's definitely one of the tamer sequels that they've done. There's not a lot of hardcore material in it. I still love it, but it should not be R.
Yeah, no, I agree. Speaking of things that shouldn't be R,
Pirates.
and I think that's what it's so interesting to have this conversation of stuff that shouldn't be R. Like, if I told you that The Matrix was R, would you be surprised?
Yes. No, I wouldn't be. I think I will stick to my guns on that one, that The Matrix should still be R.
Interesting.
I've seen a lot.
I'm curious.
I've seen a lot of articles about that. They're just like, if The Matrix came out today, The Matrix would be PG-13. And going, would it though? Because minus some blood, it's still very Rambo/Die Hard-esque of very excessive violence when it chooses to use it. It doesn't have as much violence as I remember, but when it does, it still goes pretty hard. The sequels, could pass as PG-13 except for that one scene in the rave, and I'm going, why is this a thing here? Also, I feel like the first one has some language. That one.
No, it's very, very minimal.
Really?
It nowhere more. Yeah, nowhere. Bleh, like PG-13 level language. It's literally just there for because they shoot cops. That's quite literally the only reason it's rated R is because the people that they're shooting are cops. It has nothing to do with the violence itself, which is so weird. Like, if that, like, your reasoning, I completely agree. They do kind of, especially and when they get into that hallway scene where they just shoot them up. Like, yeah, that is absolutely excessive violence. But, like, the reason it's R is because the people involved are cops, even though they're actually more like security guards. But
yeah, they probably are security. And even then, there's simulations.
Yeah, it's such a weird like line to draw on there, especially or like stuff like Boyhood, which the only reason it's rated R, I mean, there's some language, but nowhere near like the regular amount that would be in a PG-13 movie. It's only rated R because you have tween boys looking at a lingerie catalog.
Well, also, doesn't he smoke a joint at one point? And people are like, "You can't have a joint." I'm going, "Are you serious?"
Yes. Yeah. Again, we're making this movie But I mean, this is Boyhood too. Like Boyhood was like an accomplishment. Like they filmed these actors over 12 years, so it's like this movie is about growing up, and the people that the movie is for can't go see it because they've made it rated R, which is like doesn't make sense at all. Um, so it's I don't understand why it's R. There's the one that I'm going to make an argument for, and I'll definitely kind of like go back and watch it, but just to be sure, I think Hunger Games has a pretty solid argument to actually be R, especially since I don't know they literally snap a kid's neck on screen and you see it happen. It's not like you don't he doesn't walk up to the character and it pans away, and then you hear the snap. No, like he legit grabs the head and snaps the kid's neck on screen. It's like um, that that shouldn't have like been shown. Okay,
Yeah, the whole
but like even
concept
in
for
the
Hunger
second one, you literally
Games,
have a new yeah.
kids killing kids is not PG-13 material.
No, it is not. Like hey, hey, this works. This is fine. We should teenagers can watch this, but they can't watch a kid grow up and experience actual life situations and complex situations in Boyhood. No, that's not allowed.
Boyhood. Let's talk about Boyhood from Red Letter Media. You talked about Boyhood being a really well-made movie that's really just R because of some language. Let's talk about the OG version of that, the one that kind of sparks the debate all the time with our rating system's bogus, and that's with The King's Speech starring Colin Firth.
Yes.
This is like the go-to answer every single time of people going, what's a movie that shouldn't be rated R? The King's Speech. Because if I remember correctly, it's only really one scene in particular that has language in it. So basically, The King's Speech is a ruler that gets nervous speaking in front of a microphone, and the only way he can calm himself is by swearing. So his speech coach just lets him go on a swearing tirade for one scene just to get it out of his system. Like, really? Is that R worthy? I don't get it.
It's not, yeah, because it's like it's not directed at anybody. It's not like really like quote unquote offensive swearing. I don't know how to describe that, but like, yeah, he's literally just cussing to cuss because of the certain situation, and it doesn't. The MPAA was just like, yeah, it's 5 minutes of cussing, so R.
Yeah, and I remember when it came award season, and I kind of wonder if there's. It's gonna sound weird, but if they gave it the R rating, because sometimes, at least from my perception, R-rated movies get more prestige because it's more mature. It's for adults, so it gets the R rating.
Yeah.
You see more nominated movies in that ballpark of R than anything else. I think it's just because it's quote unquote for adults. King's Speech, I don't know if I would have given that an R. I definitely think it's PG-13 and just let it be known. Brief, strong language. Like, it's not excessive. It's not like Wolf of Wall Street where it's every like what 7 seconds or something in Wolf of Wall Street there's a swear,
Which like I don't want to talk about Wolf because you'd have to get really nitpicky with it, but like that should not be R. That should be NC-17.
I was about to say that should be NC-17.
That rating doesn't exist allegedly.
It does for specific movies, oddly enough, most of them with Ryan Gosling, because Blue Valentine's NC-17, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is it with crazy. Blue movies being NC-17? Blue is the warmest color, and Blue Valentine both are NC-17. Blue's Clues the movie, NC-17, man.
Well, we know why. I don't want to get into it.
Well, we know why blue is the warmest color is NC-17, but we're not going into that.
Yeah, but if anyway, Jeez, that whole reasoning just like annoys the crap out of me.
No, I don't think it's the reason you're thinking of. I think blue is the warmest color absolutely deserves NC-17, even if it was too. We're not gonna go into it, but I think in the context doesn't matter who the two people are. That's NC-17 of how much it lingers.
It is it is a prolonged scene. I agree. But I think you can make the argument that if it was different people involved in the scene, I think it would.
I don't know. It's still very
not
long.
Be NC-17. I don't know. We'll see.
We shall never know.
Let's talk about some G movies, shall we?
Yes. Looking at you, Disney.
So, why is Hunchback of Notre Dame G?
Hellfire. G-rated material. Hellfire. That's a great song. This girl doesn't love me. I wish you would rot in hell. A family picture. Like, come on. Or a man that's literally ostracized and abused in the street. That's a G movie.
Oh, dude, there's just... And the thing is, I know it's Disney. I would push... Like, you could... I mean, the argument for it to be PG is there. Like, it needs to be PG, not G. I'm going to go as farther and say it needs to be PG-13.
Really?
Like, that... Yes. The way that they the way that they draw Esmeralda in a lot of these scenes is like, she shouldn't move like that in a children's movie.
Disney will use the excuse of she's a gypsy.
Yeah, which is problematic.
Yeah, I remember Disney got into flack even back then for that.
Oh God. And like the Hellfire song, which is basically like, she's going to have sex with me or she will die. Some, like, literally, that's the same guy killing somebody on the steps of the church. The same guy, experiencing moments of hell. Like, you can't, to me, there's no reason for it to not go all the way to PG-13, just on content and context alone.
The finale, when it's Hunchback versus Frollo,
Exactly.
when Frollo basically falls to hell, like everything is on fire around them. Like, that's some dark imagery. Yeah, a Hunchback. How? Like, did you want to sell toys? I know this movie did not do well, and it's probably because of pissed off parents going, we expected a G movie, and we got this really, really dark thing. Now, I got another Disney one that, I'll be honest, I never liked Hunchback as a kid. This one, I did love, and I still love to this day, but looking back on it, I'm going, G might be a little too generous. This should be a PG movie. The original Mulan. That's very violent, actually. Your whole narrative is about war and battles. She literally kills hundreds of men with an avalanche. But then that great scene with, how many men does it take to send a message? 1. And then shoots the arrow. Like, granted, we don't see the guy die, but the implications there enough. You're going, oh, Jesus. Or, bad guy's terrifying, even with this weird eye problems. Mulan's definitely should have been a PG movie. Not because it had any, like, edgy content that would make it unfit for G, but it's just violent. It's an actual sword fight in several times in the movie. Yeah, it's a PG. Not a hard PG, but definitely not G material.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And a lot of these, like, are, like, there's no, like, the Coraline should definitely be PG-13.
That's terrifying.
Beetlejuice. Yeah, it is absolutely terrifying. Beetlejuice is PG.
When did Beetlejuice? That was after 84. That was like 86.
Yeah, it was 8.
There's
it's
an
88.
F-bomb in Beetlejuice.
And yeah, there's a lot of things in Beetlejuice.
Nice model. Also, the whole implication of Beetlejuice as a character is kind of questionable. Let me marry Lydia.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, this should be PG-13 at the very least, or at least a soft R. Like, golly.
I know Ghostbusters is PG, but I think that was around the same time PG-13 was being created, so I give that a pass. But that should be PG-13.
Yeah, I'll give it a little bit. Babe is G, and that has like the whole movie is about animals questioning their mortality.
Is it Babe or is it Babe Pig in the City? There's that terrifying scene with the butcher that like scarred kids for life. I think that was the first Babe.
I'm pretty sure it's Babe.
Yeah, I think
I'm
so.
pretty
Because
sure.
Babe Pig in the City is a little more lighthearted.
Yes, it is. But yeah, like what is happening? So and I think this is the one that got me on this whole list that like really made me be like, wait, what? Um, so if I told you, hi, I'm going to take you to this great movie. It's about some astronauts that, go into deep space and their AI turns on them, trapping them in space, effectively murdering them.
Oh God, Apollo
Um,
18. Don't
oof,
watch that
oof,
movie. It's
cringe.
so boring.
Um, why is 2001 A Space Odyssey G? Um, like, I know, okay, okay. The issue with the ratings is they're built with kids in mind. That is the reason. They're built with kids in mind. I'm not going to show children a movie with very complex philosophical and space themes. Like, okay, so the issue is this is done way, way before PG-13 was put into place. And I don't think there's anything that necessarily would make it R,
No,
especially when like you
but
have like
PG.
movies like Poltergeist getting PG. This should at the very least get PG. Like I just the rating system was so weird back then. Like it just it's hard to argue that because like if Poltergeist is getting PG, then it does make sense for 2001 and A Space Odyssey
Well,
to get G, but God, it's so
well, back
weird.
then it was much more hard and fast. Of like, G is for everyone. Kind of. G is mostly the family. It's like the G and PG, and the PG back then was the PG-13 and beyond, and R was hard and fast Terminator type. You're only seeing this if you're an adult. So, but yeah, even then, 2001: A Space Odyssey is not what I think of when I think of a G movie.
No.
Similar movie from around that same time period. Also, I don't believe should be G, but I'll give the interesting caveat. This movie should be G if you're watching the TV version of it. Josh might know where I'm going with this, because the theatrical version of this is absolutely PG, and that's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Why is this movie G when you literally have the tunnel that opens the gates of hell with like decapitated chickens and live insects crawling on people's faces? There's no earthly way of knowing which direction we are rowing. Is it raining? Is it pouring? Is a hurricane a blowing? Not a speck of light is showing.
I don't like how well you know that.
Not a speck of light is showing. So the danger must be growing.
No,
but there's certainly no signs that they're slowing.
What is this evolving into? What is happening?
I have seen this movie way too many times.
Yeah.
That's my nightly ritual.
Yeah, no,
don't you know?
Like, but that definitely should not be G. Like, and not even just for like that scene. Like, you literally have him blowing up like this girl into like this giant balloon, basically, and going, yeah, just squeeze the juice out of her. Like what? Like you don't see it, but like the implications are there. Like, see, like that girl goes down to the trash chutes, and he's like, yeah, she's probably gonna get burned up. Oh well. Like, wait, what? No, 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 no. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like there might be one or two like adult jokes in it, but nothing too bad. But yeah, that if you're watching the TV version, that's G, because the TV version and basically any release since like the original and the Blu-ray and whatnot, if you're watching the theatrical version, has like cut out that tunnel scene And kind of rightly so. It's not in the book. It has no real place in the movie. It's just kind of there. It's like a baby Tim Burton just came on set and was like, hey, can I do a scene? Sure, kid. Why not? Here we go. I don't get that
Everybody
tunnel.
buckle up.
Yeah, buckle the heck up. Because also, why are there no seatbelts on that boat? Then again, boats don't really have seatbelts as often.
But yeah, like
Yeah, whatever.
yeah.
So one that Josh and I both love that kind of has a Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory vibe to it because it's very, I don't want to say kid friendly, but it's not a kid friendly movie, but it has a kid friendly aesthetic and has very fairy tale and book-ish, like a kid's book feel to it. Is the Grand Budapest Hotel. Why is this movie R?
Okay, good.
Why is this movie rated R?
Yes.
There is a painting of a person that's naked, but that's about the extent of it. That's like the catalyst of the story is no, it's Boy with Apple that gets stolen, but that artist did another painting. That's about it. There's like some violence. Yeah, Jeff Goldblum loses his fingers. It's not overly violent. It's not bloody. There's not a lot of violence to it. It's Grand Budapest definitely should be PG-13, as well as some other Wes Anderson movies. French Dispatch, that's R, sure. I have not.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
have not seen Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou in a while to remember all the details, but that might also pass for PG-13. I'm trying to remember if there's anything too bad with it.
The Life Aquatic that I remember was definitely not R. Like, there's no way. Like,
It
in
is R.
comparison to what else is out here. No, I know.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying.
see,
Like,
I
there's
haven't
no
seen it in a
way
while
that
to
this is
remember all
R.
the details with it.
Yeah, same, but like it's still just like from what I remember, there was nothing like alarming, nothing more than what would be in like Moonrise Kingdom, which has an underage girl in her underwear. Like that's
Life Aquatic is
I
rated
don't know.
R just for the sheer sexiness of Owen Wilson and Bill Murray in wetsuits. That's what it is, with amazing radios on their heads going doo 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 doo.
Don't forget William Dafoe.
Willem.
Willem. But like yeah, like I would say even Fantastic Mr. Fox is only PG, and like I'm pretty sure that they chop chickens' heads off in that film. Like, it's weird. So like but I'm pretty sure it's only PG. It gets to pass because it's a quote unquote animated movie.
Yeah, you can get away with a lot more in animated stuff.
Yeah, like I don't know if you remember The Last Unicorn, where they had that tree that had massive boobs.
Grandmother Willow?
Yes.
I don't like that implication.
In
Never
another
mind.
life, obviously. Yeah, no. It's just so odd. Yeah, the fact that Grand Budapest Hotel is R is really, really weird. And I think part of that is attributed to like something you said earlier, in that like movies that get the R rating are considered for awards and stuff like that more often because you're mature and you're cool.
So in that case, maybe
Type-
Moneyball should have been rated R instead, because then it would have won some stuff. Moneyball got robbed. Deserved more awards.
Yes, it
Moneyball's
did.
so
Yes, it
good.
did. Why is Titanic PG-13?
Because James Cameron probably bribed the right people.
It's literally full frontal. Literally, there's dead bodies everywhere in the last third of that movie. There's pretty decent amount of violence. Not a lot of cussing. There's smoking and drinking for sure, though.
Which, okay,
like, what
can I get on the smoking soapbox here? When did that just automatically make something like PG-13 or R? Like, I know as a society we're trying not to have kids smoke as much. That's a noble quest. But why does that immediately up the rating of something? Like, I have seen in ratings going, for violence, some language, and mild smoking. I'm going, why?
Why? Yeah,
Why?
no.
I don't get
agree.
it.
I agree.
Like, I remember when, was it Stranger Things season 3 came out? They're like, just be careful, people. There's some smoking on this. I'm going, oh, Steve's head might get taken off, but Hopper with a cigar. Oh boy.
Yeah, that's the issue. Yeah. I'm with you though, but like this is definitely like I'm going by the MPAA's quote unquote rules. Because there's obviously no actual structure to this. Um, Titanic should definitely be R. But then again, not a lot of people would have, not as many people would have seen it if it was R because it's not a good movie.
Bingo. I think also you got to think that PG-13 is much more commercial. More people can see it.
It is.
Perfect segue for me. Here's where I'm gonna get people mad at me. Both The Dark Knight and The Batman with Robert Pattinson should both be rated R. And the reason they're not is because studios want to make money. I think they both firmly should be R rated. More so The Batman than The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I love both movies, but they're R-rated material. Like, sure, it's not as explicit as some other R-rated things, but the subject matter and how it approaches them is R-rated, for sure. And the reason that they're not is because if they were R-rated, Warner Bros. Wouldn't make as much money. So I think the MPAA took that into consideration. Because in the UK, it actually has an R rating. Like, kids under a certain age can't see the Robert Pattinson Batman. It was even put up for appeal. They lost the appeal, and it still has that rating. It is a dark movie. It's, well, also visually, it's very dark. But, like, Riddler in this movie is basically akin to Jigsaw almost in terms of the traps he has. Granted, they don't fully execute it like Jigsaw would, like the full effect of it. But both movies are very R-rated, I think. Just they're the softer R's, but I think the reason that they have the PG-13 rating is because they're like, well, they're comic book movies until like Logan and Deadpool came around and were like, you can have mainstream R-rated movies. And I know before y'all get at me, I know Blade was R before and whatnot, but I think with Batman, people still kind of go, well, this is our cash cow. We've got to make this PG-13. I know Joker was R, but that's not a main Batman movie. That's his own separate thing. The Batman and the Dark Knight both, I think, should be soft R's, not hard PG-13s.
Yeah, no, I agree. At least, like Dark Knight, I can definitely find the argument to be a soft R. I mean, the Joker legit puts a pencil through somebody's forehead. Like that, come on, like that's whatever. But it's so weird, especially let's like bringing up Deadpool. We're all up in our, these movies need to have different ratings, blah blah blah. But then you get stuff like that happens with Deadpool, where parents just don't pay attention to the rating at all and take their kids to see this movie, to see Deadpool,
and then they get all mad about it. Like, did you not watch the rating here?
It's literally rated R, and you're taking your 11-year-old child.
Yeah, if it was PG-13 and parents got mad, I don't understand. But it was R. That's on you guys.
It's R. And like not knowing at all anything about Deadpool. You didn't look up Deadpool? You didn't look up the content at all? Okay.
It's got Marvel's name in front of it, so that means it's okay.
Yeah. And it just adds more fuel to the fire that the MPAA saying we do this for the parents, like we are the parents' point of view. No, you're not. Shut up. That's not the case at all. Because like how is Anchorman PG-13 and not R when it has very explicit sexual innuendo?
That's true. I was about to say they only have that one swear. I think one of the best swears ever. Which someday on the pod we might have to do the best one-use F-bombs in PG-13 movies because Anchorman is up there as well as X-Men First Class. But Anchorman does, as much as we love Anchorman, and I feel like a certain generation that's still there. It's going to say sound blasphemous, but older generations, hear me out. I feel like for our generation, Anchorman is to us what Monty Python and the Holy Grail was to an older generation in terms of this is the most quoted movie of a specific era of... I felt like I knew 90% of the movie before I even watched it because everyone else in my class quoted it so much. And looking back, junior high should not be quoting Anchorman to each other.
No.
What does San Diego mean?
No. Yeah. I mean, they throw a dog off of a bridge.
If it was a cat, that's PG-13. If that's a cat, actually it's G.
Yeah, completely acceptable. Like stuff like that. But like in comparison, Kung Fu Hustle is rated R. Yeah,
Really?
which is like, yeah, because of stylistic violence, but like it's not stylistic in that there's a lot of gore. It's just like,
I
how do I
would
say this without, it's stylized because it's kung fu
I would
violence.
laugh
Is the
so hard if the original film version that Kung Fu Hustle takes the movie from is PG. Because Kung Fu Hustle is just recycled footage. I would laugh.
Yes. No, that's
Oh, I'm thinking of something else.
Kung Fury. Kung Fury
No, what's the
is
one where they
yeah,
superimpose the
Kung
guys?
Fu Hustle is the one.
What's the one where they superimpose the guy into the movie? Where he fights the cow and...
That's Kung Fury. That's Kung
No,
Fury.
Kung Fury is that short movie.
Wait, hold on. It's not Kung Fu Hustle.
I think it is Kung Fu Hustle.
No,
Kung
Fu
Pao.
Hustle is
Isn't it Kung Pao?
Kung Pao.
Yeah,
There it
Kung
is.
Pao's the one where they superimpose
it's
the
Kung
guy
Pao.
into the movie. I would laugh if
Which I'm
that.
curious.
I would laugh if that got an R rating and its original movie is PG. It'd be like, adding a white guy makes it R. I mean,
Adding a white guy makes it PG. Oh, come on, where are
I
you?
got two more. Josh, how many more you got? He's in his zone. How many more you got?
I have 3.
Oh,
I got 3.
perfect.
Sorry, I'll
be curious if if they're the same.
I was checking
or
out Kung Fu Hustle.
not. Just watching it on your.
Yeah. So let's talk about Sucker Punch.
Not on my list.
This is
okay.
It's interesting that it's interesting to do this in hindsight, because Sucker Punch eventually got an R-rated cut. But it's PG-13. Even though it's hypersexualized, there's quite a bit of violence. The content in of itself is pretty intense. We're talking about a movie where this girl creates a fantasy world inside of her head so that she doesn't have to be afraid to get lobotomized. Yeah, that's fine. And then they actually lobotomize her at the end of the movie. So, and there's heavy sexual assault themes throughout the entire film. I don't think this should have been PG-13 in the first place. It should have been R right off the bat. In fact, I was surprised to find out that it wasn't R. And like, I feel like, especially at least nowadays, that line between PG-13 and R is so thin. But at the same time, like, how is that not art? I'm just, the amount of hypersexual, is it because it's never mind. I'll get on a soapbox with you against the MPAA on sexual content.
It's Zack Snyder who really, when all is said and done, is an R-rated director. Like Man of Steel's PG-13. Yes. Batman vs. Superman should have been R and did eventually get an R-rated cut. We need an R-rated cut of Legends of the Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole. We need an R-rated cut of that, please. Never forget that Zack Snyder made that movie.
Bro, I'm absolutely down for an R-rated cut of that.
Josh is probably one of the few people that remembers that movie.
I love that.
Of course you do. It's animals fighting.
No. Okay. Anyway, just go into what your next.
I still think Batman vs. Superman probably could have passed as R, but again, it comes down to that Batman and the Dark Knight thing of like, but the commercial value.
Which I really think that if people saw heard that Batman v Superman was R, excuse me. Wow, my body disagreed. I think more people would have seen it. I think more people would have been like more interested and be like, oh, why is it R? Ooh,
it's R for bad storytelling.
Almost. Yes, it is. Or restrictive storytelling. Got him.
Really long storytelling.
Yes,
repetitive storytelling.
All the R words.
Regretful, remorseful,
really nonsensical. It's not remorseful. We know that. Jeez. But yeah, I think the idea that an R-rated movie doesn't get the mass automatically means that there's no mass appeal, I think is like a myth that, well, I'm not going to say a myth because it has been kind of proven, but at the same time, I don't think it holds as much water as I think this movie industry thinks it does.
Yeah. So another one that like got a lot of awards consideration that I really love this movie. Great directorial effort from Ben Affleck, but I don't know if it's R-rated material, is Argo. I love Argo,
Mm.
but there's no sex, there's no violence, there's very minimal language in it. It's just a very tense movie, like edge of your seat, uncomfortable in the best possible way. Maybe it's R-rated because it's based off real events that happened, but
Maybe, but that's not fair.
like there's no gunfire really, there's no big action or violence, there's barely any language, and even when they do have language, it's really, really funny. Why Argo? Argo, F yourself. Like, that's a good line. Argo absolutely, I think, could have fit in that PG-13 category a la Moneyball, but again, I'm going to say it. I think they wanted the awards consideration, and you get more quote-unquote prestige with an R rating. I think Argo absolutely could have passed for a PG-13 over an R.
Well, and that's what's so interesting because, like, 1984, that movie that you and I tote all the time, is PG-13, and that literally has someone jumping off out of a window.
When do we
And
ever
literally,
talk about
like,
1984?
We always talk about 1984.
Are we thinking of the same?
Isn't it?
Are we thinking of Wonder Woman
I'm thinking
1984
about
or 1984, the post-apocalyptic
no.
movie? We've never talked about that movie.
Wait, hold on.
1984 is the George Orwell book. Like,
sorry.
What are you talking about?
That movie with John Cusack and
1408?
Samuel Jackson's there. God,
Jesus.
I'm stupid. Don't talk
That's
to me.
PG-13.
Yes, it's PG-13,
And it should
but
be.
literally has somebody. Yeah, no, I agree.
1984?
Well, I hate myself. I want to shoot myself.
Holy
Please,
crap.
please stop. No, stop.
That's
stop,
not even
stop.
close.
I'm so embarrassed. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I hate it too because I love that movie and I just like didn't. Okay, so anyway, God. Oh man. But like, so there's a lot of the stuff that happens in that film, and it's a tense movie. There's a lot of like really psychological like stuff. There's literally a ghost jumps out of a window to kill herself. There's a bunch of stuff that happens in that movie, but that's PG-13. And Argo, where virtually nothing really necessarily happens, is R, which doesn't make sense at all.
I got one more, and it might be the same one that Josh has. How many more you got, Josh?
Probably not.
I
got two. Well,
maybe.
I have one.
Okay.
I have one technically because so I put this on the list, and the more I thought about it, the more I'm wrong. So Chef is R.
There's a lot of language in Chef.
You know how
it's a kitchen.
Yeah, so yeah,
anybody that's worked in a kitchen knows that's not an R. That's not a PG-13 workplace.
Literally, my thought process was like, there's not a lot of cussing in that movie. I don't know what you're talking about. And then I guess like it's literally all in the kitchen scenes. Kitchen scenes. I think they said I looked at the stats. It's got 45 F-bombs in the entire film. It was like
it's just because Josh has worked in a kitchen for so long that he's got the kitchen filter ears that he just doesn't hear that
so
anymore.
Desensitized.
He's just so used to that environment now. Like for those that don't know, Chef was like, if Chef and God of War could merge into one movie, that would be Josh's Citizen Kane right there. Oh.
Well, yeah, there's not a cooking mechanic in God of War, and there should be. Yet.
If Atreus fails a mission, just throw him on the skillet.
Jeez.
What are you eating there, Kratos?
Maybe Amazon will throw that in. Boy. Maybe Amazon will throw that in, since they're in the business of ruining series. So, wow, that was really cold. I didn't really. Let's talk about Mel Brooks movies.
Men in Tights is PG-13. I know that.
Yes, and so is Spaceballs. Which, no, Spaceballs is PG, which is
for its time.
I go back and forth.
For its time, I would give it a PG.
Yeah.
If it came out nowadays, it's PG-13 because there's adult.
Well, it came.
Did it come out?
It comes out
in 80?
Yeah, it comes out like it's like 80. It's late 80s.
Oh, then that's a PG-13.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That needs,
because that's one of my favorite comedies, but that's
like,
a PG-13 comedy. There's definitely certain Mel Brooks movies that my parents let me see after a certain age, as opposed to like PG. When you're a kid, you have more carte blanche to it. Like as a kid, if you saw something got rated PG instead of PG-13, woohoo! I could see it. Like finding out that Nicolas Cage's National Treasure was rated PG, I could see it, my man.
Well, that should absolutely be PG-13. Are you kidding me?
Why should National Treasure be rated PG-13?
It's for intense situations.
Intense, amazing beautifulness with Nicolas Cage and Riley.
Yeah.
There's nothing PG-13 in National Treasure.
Fair, but like Spaceballs definitely should not be PG.
No,
like there's no. Like
there's one line alone of comb the desert. You found anything? Man, we ain't found. That alone makes it PG-13. As much as I love it, like that's a PG-13 movie, not PG.
That's a but that's not even like a mass appeal thing either. Like more people are. That doesn't mean making it PG-13. More people are like that doesn't take it to a wider audience or anything like that. Like the people that went and saw this film would still have seen it at PG-13. Like, come on, man. Like there's no reason for it to be PG. It needs to be high. It's just crazy. It's just so weird to me because it's like. The MPAA, again, we're back on this. The MPAA just has no real rules at all.
Yeah.
What's your last one?
Oh, you know my last one. My last one, I fully just don't understand it. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, the 6th Harry Potter movie.
Yes, okay. Yes.
Is PG. For context, the 4th movie, the 5th movie, the 7th movie, and the 8th movie are all PG-13. The movies get progressively darker as they go along, but yet there's this one weird, happy-go-lucky, bright, cheery-eyed PG in the middle of Voldemort's rise to ascension. The movie that has a creepy freaking tunnel and cave where they're trying to get a Horcrux. The movie where Dumbledore dies is PG, but the movies surrounding it, the movies sandwiching it, are PG-13. The scene where Harry does the, not Cruciatus, Sectum Sempra on Malfoy.
Dude.
That's PG?
Dude.
Single-handedly almost did a successful double turn and made Malfoy a babyface and Harry a heel in that moment. That's PG.
Dude.
When Harry tries to murder Snape, that's PG. Don't say anything. I know you will, Josh, about wanting to murder Snape. But there's a lot of Half-Blood Prince that I'm going, this is okay for PG, but the 4 other movies surrounding this movie have to be PG-13. Nothing about Half-Blood Prince is stylistically that different from the other movies. Sure, there's a little bit more humor. I will still laugh my head off every single time of, Harry, sir, why are you out so late? Well, I'm going to go see Hagrid. Well, you should be coming inside. Well, then by all means, come along then, sir. Like, that's just Daniel Radcliffe. That's not Harry. That's just Daniel Radcliffe being Daniel Radcliffe. Like, there's a little bit more humor in Half-Blood Prince. There's a little bit more levity before things get real dark. But it's still a pretty dark movie with, death and violence and some adult themes of, like, growing up. But for some reason, that's allowed to be PG. I don't get it.
I agree with you. It is like one of the funnier of the series. but it's really like I love when as soon as he takes that luck potion, I literally am like, you're laughing pretty much most of
Oh
the
yeah.
time. Like the pincers joke, the like Harry, we had a plan. Yeah, I wanted to go to Hagrid's. Like I feel like it's the place to be. Like
Bye.
and then it turns out to be the place to be for Harry's character. But like it's so yeah, like it is definitely really, really dark.
Again, he almost murders Malfoy
Yeah,
in brutal fashion.
he does. And the only thing that I think never mind, that's a story point. That's not a writing point. But like, yeah, there's no reason. Like, and the fact is, they show Malfoy basically lying in a puddle of his own blood.
Malfoy is
like,
bleeding out. It's PG.
Like, that's.
So what you're saying is, in
fine.
that moment, Malfoy was on borrower's time.
So what we're
Tom
saying
Felton was in the borrowers.
No, I'm ignoring
So was okay. Weird side tangent with that though. Malfoy was in the borrowers. So was Slughorn as his dad in that movie. I'm going. Weird that this is the movie.
Wow, I haven't thought about the borrowers. That's about just to be
the little redhead
clear
people
here. Yeah, that's about the minuscule people who like quote unquote borrow thing.
I made a borrower's reference in 2022.
God. Next thing you know, we're gonna
What?
Mouse Hunt?
Oh god, we are never gonna bring up Mouse Hunt on this podcast. We're never gonna bring up Mouse Hunt on this podcast. No. MPAA is stupid.
Let's talk about Mouse Hunt. No.
Mouse Hunt should absolutely not be PG. Holy crap.
Oh, absolutely
Any
not.
movie with Christopher Walken should not be PG.
The amount of times that they hit on women. The amount of times that they like grossly hit on women or like people are legitimately getting maimed is no PG on that one. I think all in all, this is like definitely showing for us is
MPA is stupid. It needs to be reworked.
Pretends like they have standards and they have none.
Wonder how deep their pockets are.
Pretty deep because a lot of larger studios will pay them to make their movies PG-13 so they get more commercial appeal. And it's so sad because I don't even think I can say that, and people were like, "Oh, that's an interesting conspiracy theory." Like that's just like there's so much evidence to that fact.
And the MPAA hates horror a lot.
Yeah, they hate horror. They hate gay people. They well, and I'm not gonna get too much into it because I don't think I'm necessarily qualified to have that conversation, both in content and in just the amount of proof there is to that. But like, it's just God, there's so much that's obvious about we represent the parents' needs and the parents' desires and the blah 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 blah. But it's like, especially nowadays, it's definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
It is not anywhere close to what the average family actually deals with anymore. And the fact that you have to live in LA to be a part of the MPAA is interesting. Yeah, did you know that? You can
Josh
it's
actually has done his research this week.
Yeah, I actually have. I went and like looked up like a bunch of stuff about the MPAA, like themselves, not just the movies, but like one of the requirements is, so it's so weird. They quote unquote have 2-year terms. So they switch the board out every quote unquote every 2 years. And you have to live in LA in order to be a part of the board. Yeah. So
they're a cult. They're a cult that controls the movie industry.
I wouldn't doubt it, my friend. Like, I just also like the fact that they're in LA makes a lot of the decisions that they make even more questionable. Like, there's no way.
What?
Okay, whatever.
LA people don't think that they have the world standards or anything. LA people
That's
don't
so
live in a bubble
weird. No,
whatsoever.
not at all. LA. I love LA.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think? What are some movies that you think are completely misrated? Whether they should be PG-13 or should be RG, that should be PG, and vice versa. Let us know. We always like hearing from you guys. Important update: there will not be a podcast episode next week. I'll be out of town, but there should be one when I return a week after that. If you haven't already, subscribe to us on whatever audio platform you're listening to us on, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or YouTube. If you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube. Help us get to 700 subscribers by the end of the year. That's our main goal. And as always, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.